Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you're new to my channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Yes, it's me. Yes, I'm wearing glasses today. I normally don't for my YouTube videos, but I've dealing with or coming off of, I should say, either the flu or COVID or something. Luckily, I'm feeling much better today, good enough to do this video, but not good enough to put my contact lenses in yet. So you got to deal with me and my glasses today. But anyway, with that being said, the movie we're going to take a look at today is one that I actually streamed on Amazon Prime, which I have a subscription to. So I don't have the physical media for this movie. And that's, of course, from 1981. And that's a creature feature called The Boogens. I just like saying that name, The Boogens. I like saying the name more than I like the movie, unfortunately. But let's just go ahead and get into it. So, The Boogens is a 1981 American monster film directed by James L. Conway and starring Rebecca Balding, Fred McCarran, Anne Marie Martin, Jeff Harlan, John Crawford, Mad Floyd, John Lormer, and Scott Wilkinson. The title refers to the scaly turtle-like monsters that are released from an abandoned and boarded up silver mine and begin to wreak havoc. So, a small construction team of four men worked to reopen an abandoned silver mine in a Colorado town 100 years after a mysterious massacre forced the military to shut it down. What they don't know is that their excavating has inadvertently freed some predatory creatures, which are a cross between a turtle and a spider, lurking deep within the mine shafts. The reptilian creatures are known as the Boogens. These creatures have been dormant for centuries and are now hungry for human flesh. As the Boogans start attacking the townspeople, a group of friends become trapped in the mine. They must find a way to survive and escape while facing the relentless and deadly creatures. So, yeah, that's kind of the setup and the premise. As far as the cast goes, Rebecca Balding is Trish Michaels, Fred McCarran is Mark Kinner, Anne Marie Martin is Jessica Ford. Jeff Harlan as Roger Lowry, and John Crawford as Brian Deering. So yeah, that's to set up the premise and the cast for The Boogens from 1981. Yeah, I like my creature features. Alligator's been one of my favorite movies that I've seen from the early '80s recently, that I hadn't seen before. This movie, well, it's not terrible. It just doesn't really have anything going for it, in my opinion. That's the biggest thing. It's just kind of there. So let's just go ahead and get into it because it does have some good things. So we'll start with those. This will be a shorter review, just so you know. The pros are it has a pretty straightforward plot and story here. These creatures are trapped in this mine for like 70 years and are freed by an explosion and excavating going on, and as a result they go on the attack. It's quick and to the point. There's not a lot of convoluted or complicated twists or story plots, which for a creature feature I kind of like. I think sometimes a creature feature can be overly explained or convoluted, or they try to make it more complicated than it is. When a person sits down to watch a good creature feature horror movie, they don't necessarily need a whole lot of plot. At least I don't think they do, as compared to some other movies like psychological horror. Take your pick, found footage, whatever the case might be. But so I think the movie does that well. I don't think it overcomplicates or gets in the way of itself. It is a pretty well shot movie, especially for low budget. But the POV shots that we get from the creature's viewpoint as they move along the ground are pretty well done. Of course, that's what we get for the first hour or so, hour and 15 minutes of the movie. But the movie has good cinematography and is overall just a nice looking film. You could tell that the director, the cameraman, they kind of knew what they were doing when it came to the cinematography and kind of getting the shots that they wanted and everything. So that's something that's good about the movie. Um, some of the kills are well done in terms of, like, you get a lot of neck slashes by these creatures, and there's some pretty good blood and gore effects, I'll say, more than I was expecting. You can tell they put a little bit of the lower budget into those gore effects, so I appreciate that. My favorite kill would probably be the one towards the end where the sheriff is killed by the Boogan, by basically going after his face. Like, it's a case where we think the Boogan is dead. The sheriff gets up real close to him like this. And of course, the Boogan jumps up and grabs his face and starts into him. And so yeah, that was a pretty good kill. Like I said, pretty good gore and blood effects there. Um, I do think the mine setting has that sort of claustrophobic feel that works for me in a horror movie. It definitely gives me sort of my Bloody Valentine, or yeah, my Bloody Valentine vibes from 1981, a movie that I actually just watched a week ago in review for this series. Of course, I already reviewed it on my channel, but I'm not saying this movie is good, but just having that mind setting, I like that in a horror movie. I think that works, the claustrophobic nature of it. And I think it's utilized pretty well in this movie. I don't think the effects aren't too bad overall, given the low budget nature of this movie. I think they do what they can, and I think it's pulled off fairly well for the most part. And then I have to say, there's a there's a pretty well trained dog in this movie who almost gets as much screen time as the main characters. Frankly, you got this little, I don't know what kind of dog it is. It's like one of those little white yippy dogs. But that dog must have taken commands well, or she. Um, and I thought there were a couple of humorous parts having to do with the dog in the first hour of the movie or so. Um, but yeah, they picked the right dog for that particular movie. If you're gonna have a dog on screen for as long as they do in this movie, they had a good trained one. So so those are my pros for the Boogens. As far as cons go, the first hour or so of this movie, really not a lot happens. It's pretty slow moving. I found it to be a bit of a slog, as it's just a lot of character introductions, character interactions, dialogue. At one point these characters go and meet these older gentlemen who the two minor guys work for or with at a bar, and they start shooting pool. And one of the girls, who incidentally is the one actress or the one person I recognize from this movie, that's Anne Marie Martin, who plays Jessica. She was in Prom Night the year before, kind of the bitchy blonde girl who's kind of the leader of the kids at the beginning of that movie that ended up leading to the demise of another character. But so I recognized her from there, but she's like a pool hustler basically, and it's like, yeah, okay, can we get to some horror here? So there's a lot of that going on. I guess they're trying to really let you get to know the characters and stuff. But it's like I said, it's a slow moving first hour. Um, but if you can stick with it the last half hour or so, that's where all the action is and the mystery's resolved, and we kind of find everything out in that last 20 to 30 minutes, and that's worth it. So I will say that is another pro, I guess, even though I'm in the cons now. But the first hour, yeah, don't expect a lot of action. You don't see the creature a whole lot until the last 20 minutes or so of the movie. Like I said, instead we get a lot of the POV shots where we're seeing things from the creature's point of view as they're scurrying along the ground and stuff. And I'm sure this was a budget reason, a budgetary constraint, I'm guessing. Um, but it would have been nice to see the creature a little bit more. But again, when you have a low budget movie like this one clearly was, I think they made it for a couple $100,000 or something, if I remember right. You don't see the creature till the last 15, 20 minutes. For the amount of time that they try to set up the characters and let you get to know them, kind of going back to my first con, I still really didn't feel that much of a connection to them. Like, I won't say that they're the worst characters. There's definitely horror movies and movies in general with a lot worse characters than the characters in this movie. But I can't say that there's anything really that stands out about him either. That really, the time invested in getting to know him wasn't really paid off, I guess is the best way to say it in this movie. I just didn't feel a strong connection to any of them. Just kind of felt meh on them. They were okay though. When you do see the creature at the end, then we understand why they didn't show the creature a whole lot before. Because, some people I've heard say that they like the look of the creature. I think it's pretty silly looking personally. Again, low budget. I'm trying to be fair here and not pick on them too much, or rip them too much, I should say, not pick on them. But I don't think the creature looks all that good. It is kind of like a cross between this reptile turtle and with tentacles, basically. Um, It's just pretty silly looking, very cheesy, which I guess works for the early 80s. So they got that going for you. But I really wasn't buying it. It's probably a good thing that he didn't show it a whole lot throughout the whole movie. But at the same time, I'm glad they did show what they did towards the end of the movie. They also make sure not to have the lighting too bright on it as well, not to expose some of the flaws with the design of it. So take that for what you will. Some people will like it, not have an issue with it. I thought it looked pretty silly. The movie doesn't really explore any space in terms of the town, any other houses or townspeople. Again, probably because of the budget constraints of being a low budget movie. But it would have been nice to. I mean, I'm assuming that these things probably have tunnels to other houses and other buildings within this small town, and I mean, if they don't, I don't understand why it would just be to this one house. I don't think it is. I think that's just what we see because that's all they had the money for. But it would have been that's one area where the low budget hurt because I think it would have had some higher stakes if we gotten the rest of the town a little bit more involved, maybe some more townspeople and stuff. Um, because we really just go from the house that these four main characters are in to the mine and back again. Like I said, are we to believe that the creatures don't tunnel into other areas' houses, just theirs? I don't think so. Like I said, I think it's because of the budget constraints. Overall, it's just kind of a meh film without any real standout scenes or moments or kills, even though there are a couple of decent kills. But none of that really sets it apart from any other horror movie that I can think of. At the end of the day, I don't think it's a horrible movie, but I don't think it's a good or great movie. I think it's just kind of there. And I don't really have a strong desire to buy this on physical or add it on physical media to an already overcrowded horror collection that I have behind me. So I think if I want to watch this again, I think I'm going to hit the old streaming services. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give the Boogens a 6 out of 10 as far as the rating goes. It's worth checking out once, especially if you enjoy creature features. Just know that the first hour or so, there's very little action that happens, but the last half hour is worth the stay, I would say, for a one-time watch. So, with that being said, please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series or any of my other horror content throughout the rest of the year. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay scared. Bye.